Base. 34. Okay, halacha ches. We weren't here last night, were you?
No.
Right, 34.
Oh, you did 2 blocks.
Yeah, we did 2 blocks. Honest engine. We're 34.
You're at the inside?
Yeah, Yud Zion Base.
Yeah, oh, okay.
34. Okay, Keita Boki Masayim Houch.
It was our anniversary, your anniversary.
Mazel Tov. Keita Boki Masayim. How do you check out the witnesses? Also, you bring them in and to the court. And you threaten them, with dire consequences if they lie. Not that we actually do anything to them right now, but we say that it's a despicable thing. And then we send them out. You leave the elder among the 2 witnesses. They said to him, tell us how you know that Reuven owes Shimon. He says, well, he told me he told me he owes him $100, right? Or here's even worse. So-and-so told me that he owes him $100. Lo marklum. It's a meaningless testimony. Ad Shemari must say, Befonenu hodo lo. They got to say that they witnessed alone, or at a minimum that in front of us, Reuven conceded to Shimon, explicitly, not just to us, but to Shimon, Shu Chayav Lo Masayim Zuz, that he owes him $200. Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Yochanan said, there is an exception to this rule, where the defendant did actually come to the witness and say, I'm giving this you over so you'll be able to testify in court. So in other words, where they testify that he came over true, not to the creditor, only to them, but he said, I'm giving this you over as a form of testimony, that they should be able to testify in court. So in that case, they could testify that he gave it to them over with some sense of officiality. Okay? Ketzadani, how do you judge? Hadayonim Yoshin, the judges sit. Vanidonim Omdim, the people, the litigants stand. Vatavea, Poseach, Vidvorav. I don't think actually in secular courts they stand.
I sat today.
No, this is about the litigants. They also don't stand.
No.
Yeah, but when I saw in Kmart the other day, and I saw Judge Mathis on television, away from my prescription, so I saw that they stand. They stand. Yeah. Okay.
It's only
Oh, that's
10
right.
minutes.
Yeah.
On television, they
And
say.
they sit down during commercials.
Okay. So the television emulates Torah. Okay. So and the people who judge stand. The claimant, Posech b'dvarav rishon, he starts first. And it says, whoever possesses a matter, Yigash Lechem should come to you. So who possesses the matter, the person is the claimant. How do we know that he who wants to take something away from his friend, he must bring the proof? Rabbi Crispa, B'Shem Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel said, Yigash Aleichem, even though it says he will come to you, we dash that Yagish Rayosav, he should bring his proof. The Bible learns out of a svara, not out of a pasuk. But the Yerushalmi does, true to form, learn out of a pasuk. Rabbi Yochanan asked, B'Yavama mi meradif achar mi. By Yavama, by case of Yimu, who was the claimant and who was the defendant? He said, Rabbi Lezer responded, V'aksiv, that is say, also Yivim to Ashara, the Yavama, the female of the species, she goes up to the gate, meaning she comes to court. So therefore, she's the one who's the litigant who's claiming redress in the case of Yibum. Which makes sense, because she can't get remarried until she gets Yibum or Chalitza. So as Rabbi Yechanan said, Yofelim Dani Rabbi Lezer, who wasn't actually his Rebbe, was the student, taught him very well. Rabbi Chelbon, Rabbi Babish, and Rabbi Yanai said, Hatovea, Tovea, the claimant claims. Vanitva Meshi, the defendant responds. Vadayan Makriya, and the judge decides. Rabbi Simon said, Torah Chadayan L'Sharos Tameim, the Tano saying, the Dayan has to repeat over their claims. Shneimar says, Yomer HaMelech, the famous Haftorah of the Haftorah, it's not such a famous Haftorah because we only read it when Parshas Miketz doesn't come out on Hanukkah. But an Haftorah about the Shlomo with the two with the two women and the dead baby, right? So there it says, Vayarma Melech, the king repeated what they said. This one says, this is my son is alive and yours is dead. The other one says the opposite. So we see that the Dayan has to repeat the claims which are made by the litigants. Rav Huna Karav, now switching a moment to testimony. Actually, switching moment. Rav Huna Karav, Chamisade, Kavona. Rav Huna, when he saw that the witnesses were perfectly coordinated their stories, Kavona means they were mechuvan, they were perfectly coordinated, Havachaka, they were cross-examined very, very intensely. Why?
They colluded.
It's like they colluded, right. When he saw Elchain, it should say Elchain twice. Sure, Gilead says, when he saw that this guy said this way and that guy said that way, then he would kind of like show them how they, he would, I don't know, show them is the right word, but he would try and make sure that the testimony was in sync, but he wouldn't try to trip them up because it was an indication that they were telling the truth. Rav Huna Mekel Dayana. Rav Huna used to curse the judges. The Amrei, who would say to the litigants, "Nekablin aleichem chad soid." Will you accept upon yourself one witness? In other words, the halacha is, of course, bishnai meidim yokum davar, but one can accept, in court, as if the litigants agree, they can accept testimony of solitary witnesses, women, children as well. So therefore, the Dayan, however, according to Yerushalmi, is not supposed to suggest that. The litigants have to suggest that. Okay, they have to agree that it's agreeable to them to accept one single witnesses as being legitimate testimony. Okay, says the Mara Rav Huna Karava Ziyada Zechulu Barnash Rav Huna when he knew a merit for a certain individual, a bedina and judgment, the law of a yadalei, and this guy did not know how to claim this. How possibly he would tell him. Even though he was only the judge, he would tell him what claim he could claim. Shame, because it says, open your mouth for a person who's silent. Now, in the Bali, it's a question whether you actually do that in all cases. We possibly only do it when the Yisoimim, Almonos, when somebody who's downtrodden. But here, it seems like he was trying to make a universal principle. Okay? Says more interesting thing, where Rav Sheri said, Hamachmin Eidov Achorei HaGoder. This is the best of my recollections, not in the Bali, because the Bali only talks about hiding witnesses behind fences when it comes to Kiddushin. It sounds like over there, really, in the Bali, sounds like it's only a problem by Kiddushin, but not by Dinim Momeris. But here it says, even by Dinim Momeris. If you hide witnesses behind a fence, and then in front of these witnesses, unbeknownst to the debtor, you approach him and say, you owe me $100, and the debtor says yes, then that's not a valid confession, because he wasn't aware there were witnesses there, because the witnesses were hiding. So therefore the confession in that case is not a valid confession. Okay, because he didn't have real das to do it. Certain individual, it should say, he shouted at his friend, Gariston inside a restaurant. Doesn't say how fancy the restaurant was, but it was a falafel joint or, what's it called, that place downtown? Shallots, right. But he said, Havli madav chayavli. Give me what you owe me. Amar lay in. So he said, don't worry, I will. Beside the kabun, after they got up, Amar lay, he said to him, Leina chayav lach klum. He said, I don't know you a thing. Amar lay, he said, what do you mean you don't know me? He said, Sa'adin, I have witnesses now because they saw me and they were saying the restaurant that you could see it to me. Amar lay, so he said, Lomris can begin to loma arviv begav susach. The only reason I said it is not to ruin your meal. Now, it wasn't just his meal, obviously, but not to ruin the meal in general, right?
The argument in the Bible is like Mashatan Ibach.
Yeah, Mashatan Ibach, right. So, but I don't know if that's true when it's in front. Anyway, yeah, but this case not about it.
This particular case of the restaurant.
Right. Asukun Rabbi Yami Umar. When they came from Rabbi Yami said this is true. Mar Hadah. The Mar Rabbi Yochanan is similar, which Rabbi Yochanan said, "Machmin Eidov Ma'achorei HaGoder." If somebody hides his windows behind the fence, law so klum, it's not a valid concession. Okay. Anyway, so this the Rambam brought down here in the Maraponim says that there's a couple of Maraponim here. The first one he does bring down that A person not supposed to be like a lawyer for a client, judge not supposed to be like a lawyer for a client. So the question is whether that agrees with this Yerushalmi, doesn't agree with this Yerushalmi. And then he presents the Rambam says that when you're moed, it has to be derech chodoya, not derech sicha. To be like a real confession, and not just like shmuzarai, not just like idle banter. But I don't think that there's, I don't remember, but I don't think there's this case specifically is in the Bavli by Mominus. It's by Kiddushin there is a case like that of Hichmineidim Achorei Agoder, but I don't remember such a thing by Dine Mominus. Let's just see if we have a citation available here quickly. It says in this case, there's a few quarters of prescribed. I was just lying to you. Part is example. Etc. Anyway, Taka doesn't work. So that's the case over there. Okay, so yeah, it is. The Bible is trying to agree about that. Not about Psachi Pichal Elim. The Bible only has that by Yisrael Min Almonos. But here, this the Bible does agree that witnesses hidden behind the fence, they can't testify for a confession because it's not going to be a confession unless the guy knew the witnesses were there. Okay, then they brought in the second guy. So they check him out. Comes out that they are saying the same thing. No, even else whatever the judges start discussing the matter. Two people say he's liable, one person says one says he's liable. Two people say he's meritorious, and one says he's liable. And two people say he's liable, one says meritorious. I read that wrong. Right? So in each case you follow the majority. Each one says one thing, the other says the other thing. The other says I don't know. So he's not a judge. You see what they are, they have to add judges. Even if in fact two people say he's zakai, or two people say it's chayev, the other says I don't know, you'll see what they must add judges, because a judge who says I don't know is not a judge. That's the vote. Without a vote, it's meaningless. So even if it's 2-0, 2-zip, it doesn't work. It has to be 2 against 1. So therefore, they have to add somebody instead of him.
So they
Okay?
add one judge, or they add 2 more?
It seems that they, I would say they only had 1, but the Pnei Moshe says they had 2. They go from 3 to 5 to 7 and so on and so forth. Okay? Says this one we had a couple of times in the Yerushalmi. The minimum of goats is 2. Matam lumber shnei. So why does it say 2 goats in the Torah by korbanos? Shushneim shayim. They should both look the same. This by the sorry la Hashem sorry la also on Yom Kippur. Okay. Kvasim miur kvasim shnei. Minimum of sheep is 2. Matam lumber shnei. So why does it say shnei kvasim? This is talking about by Shabbos and other Yom Tovim. Shushneim shavim. They should both be equivalent in the way they look. Miut Tziporim Shnayim. How do we, the minimum of birds by a leper is 2. Matam lo mashtei, what does it say? 2, shiur shavos. Now it's good to say Tziporim, Kvasim might say 2, that they should be equivalent. Miut Chatzot Shnayim, minimum of trumpets would be 2. Matam lo mashtei, why does it say they have to be 2 trumpets? Superfluous, shiur shavos, they should look the same. Hey, see Rabbi Chagai, Rabbi Yasas, Rabbi Yasas, he doesn't say, Vam Shnei Anoshim, the 2 people should stand before the court. Me'ata miut hanid Anoshim Shnayim. Again, the same thing, the minimum of people is 2. Matam lo shnei. What does it say 2? So it means shu shavim, that they have to be both be the same height, they both have to look the same.
They wear the same hats.
Same hats, right? Baksi, anyway, it says when it can't be Baksi lo satem mishpat ger yasom. It says don't incline the testimony or the judgment of a ger or a yosam. Hare ger danim mishenu ger yosam danim mishenu yosam. Now that we were only inclined if the ger was going to court with somebody who's JFB, or if the orphan is going to court with somebody who has parents, right? Obviously, you don't always go to court with somebody who's equivalent to you. You can't loma shnei. So what shnei? So why does it say shnei? Mufne lakish. It's superfluous, and we do a hekish. a parallel, we'll do min exertion make exertion. Now I'm going to start so basically changes almost every single line next 4 lines, which I think is correct. It makes more sense the way he does it. Nemar kan shnei, it says here too, by the litigants. V'nemar, it says elsewhere, and it should be instead of Yishu shnei anoshim, it says shnayim. It says the language of shnayim, when it says api shnei, the shnayim made him yokum dover, right? Based on 2 witnesses, the matter should stand. And it should say now makan, just like by Adim, we say by litigants, we say by Adim, we say anoshim below noshim. By litigants. Makan anoshim below noshim. It says here men, not women, right? It says v'om du shnei anoshim by litigants, right? So it's men, not women. So ata afla alon. So too by testimony, anoshim, it's men, v'lo noshim lo time, not women and children. Harei lamanu she'ein ha'isha. From this we deduce that we know that ein ha'isha me'idah it should be. We know that a woman cannot testify. Unless, no, I'm not so happy with this. How do we know a woman can't testify? Because learn from the Gzera Shava. The Vashai Tesel takes Avdana below. And go on, but after I'm said and done, I don't now realize, don't know how we know the women can't be witnesses. Bishnai made him Yakum Davar. That doesn't teach us anything. Anyway, I'll read to the way he has it. Now I realize I'm not so happy with it, because I don't know how we know in the final analysis that women can't be Aiden. Not sure how we know that. Because if we want to learn from Bishnai made him Yakum Davar, we want to learn it out from Vam Dushnei Anoshim Asher Elohem Ariv Lifnei Hashem, and want to say Anoshim there teaches us men and not women, so women shouldn't be allowed to come to court, and we know they are allowed to come to court. So I'm not sure exactly how we know that men can only men can serve witnesses, not women. I don't remember offhand. Anyway, so I'll read the way it reads it anyway. Nemar kan Shnei, again going back a line. It says here Shnei, and Nemar it says elsewhere Bishnai made him Yakum Dover, right? It should be kan. Anoshim below noshim. Just like here, it mentions men going to court, not women. So to af la'alon. So to there, when it talks about Adim, it's anoshim below noshim lo time. It's men, not women, and not children. Harei lamanu, we learned she'ena isha. It should be ena isha me'idah. A woman does not judge. Okay, testify. Sorry. Rabbi Yosef said, I'm sorry. And then it should say afterwards, Me'ato ein isha dona. Let's say that she also she can't go to court. Now I realize it's correct. In other words, let's say she can't go to court because it says, Vam Dushnei Anoshim, right? It says the 2 men, right? And you needed that, the way it looks like this, you needed that Vam Dushnei Anoshim to mean really men, literally. Because you needed to learn out from there that Bishnai made him Yakum Davar is men. Right? Because you wanted to make Zera Shava and say that just like over here it's men, so over there it's men. So then you should have to flip it back and say, a woman can't go to court. If I rip a woman off, she's stuck. There's nothing she can do about it, right? That's what you have to say. Says more, no. You don't have to say that. How we can salvage it. Rabbi Yisrael said, I'll tell you how to make the Zera Shava without learning how from Vam Dushnei Anoshim. Because Nemar kan Shnei, it says here, 2 Al Pishnai made him Yakum Davar, right? That how do we know men? For Nemar Lal Shnei, it says Shnei later on. That's Vaishoru Shnei on the pasuk which more on top. Vaishoru Shnei Anoshim says the 2 men stayed in the camp. Who the 2 men, Eldad and Medad, when they were picked to go join the Sanhedrin, they didn't go. So therefore, now we can say, and there it says Anoshim explicitly. Malala, just like over there, Vayishar Shtei Anoshim is talking about Dafke Noshim Lo Noshim Lo Ktanim. It's talking about men, not women, and not children, right? Afkan. So to there, here by us, by testimony, it also is a case of Anoshim, and not instead of Pishnayim Eidim, it's Anoshim Lo Noshim V'Lo Ktanim. It's men, not women, and not children. So all's well that ends well, it seems. It seems we salvage it because we say the two Anoshim, which it says by the litigants, as we see presently, used for another drasha. How we know that only men can be intended witnesses? Because we learn out the Shnei Yogodover from the Shnei Anoshim, which it says by Eldad and Medad. Okay? Rabbi Yosef said, I just said, Ikem Atam Lo Masheni Shnei. So that's the case. What is the Shnei Anoshim come to tell us by the litigants? Shloya Echad Omer V'Chiyesha shouldn't have one standing, one sitting. Echad Omer Kol Tzaka, one speak as long as he wants. Le'Echad Omer Lo Katzed V'Echad, the other say be brief. Right. So that's the Shnei means you have to make them equal in the eyes of the law. Not that they're equal in stature or in background, but they have to be equal in the eyes of the law. Okay? I heard that if the Dayan wants to let the two witnesses sit down, he's allowed to let them sit down, as was your case today. Not the litigants. Litigants have to stand, it seems, but the witnesses are allowed to sit. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel says, we say to the litigant, if one of them comes dressed fancier, we say, Levosh Kashem Shehu Lavush, either wear what he wears, or I'll be Shehu Kashem Shalavush, or give him to wear what you are wearing, in order that everybody should make an equal impression. He says, whatever happens to litigants, the witnesses must stand when they testify. Okay, not like we do today. Shneimah says, they stand before God. Rabbi Yerushalmi said, also the people who are being judged, they have to stand when they receive sentence. Shneimah says, those who have the dispute, which is being reconciled, they have to stand before God. Ksiv, it says, children, but parents shall be put to death for the sins of their children. Doesn't say Ish b'chatoyim. Musarei says everybody dies in their own sin. So matam loyam. So if somebody wants to says that boys not don't get punished for their fathers don't get punished for their children's sins. Loyam su avos be'edus body. We dash it differently. We say it means that they don't you don't get put to death on the basis of your own child's testimony. Uvanim loyam su be'edus avos. Nor the children get put to death on the basis of their father's testimony. Now take the word minayim, it's just distracting. Instead of minayim, put in anything. No, let's not put in anything. Okay.
What's the normal puzzle? You learn that car was puzzle.
This is it.
Yeah.
Honest, yeah. Yeah. If I recall correctly. Says Sanhedrin base. You can take a look if you want. Don't trust me. Yeah. Trust me. Okay. So says the Gemara. Says the Gemara. I'm up to Minayin, 4 lines of that. Minayin shlo yu'edim krovim, it should be shel dayonim. Okay, try this, so changes it. How do we know that the edim should not be, you know what, I now I remember what I was looking for. It should be like this. Ubanos lo yumsu, start from the beginning of the 4th line again. Ubanim lo yumsu, be'edut, no, not from the line before. Matam lomar, lo yumsu avos abonim, so it means lo yumsu avos beidus bonim, uvonav lo yumsu beidus avos, this should become a testimony of either. And it means also, shelo yiyu, no, I also read it wrong this time. It says, Lo yimsu avos abonim, lo yimsu avos be'edus bonim, ubayim lo yimsu be'edus avos. I'm confused. I erased this next word, but I don't know what I want to replace it with. All right, beats me. Anyways, let's read it. The four lines of I'm nine shel yedim krovim shel it should be shel dayanim. How do we know that the see, the Ritbaz gives his girsa. Look at the Ritbaz. Top line of Ritbaz. See, lo yim savas chulei, lo yim savas ba'edus banim, shlo yu edim krovim ba'al din. They shouldn't be close to the ba'al din. Okay, I honestly got it. Okay. But fourth line from the bottom again, this beginning line. Ubanim loyim subeidos savos. What does that teach us? Ubanim loyim subeidos savos. It teaches us shelo you take out the word minayin. Shelo you edim koivim shabaldin. They cannot be the relatives of the baldin, right? In other words, first we said children can't testify in the father. And farther on, their children. How do we know there's further relatives? How do we know it's relatives beyond that? So that he's saying, uvanim, the extra vav, uvanim loyim subeidos savos. Okay? The extra vav gives the drasha. Okay? Uminayin shlo yuedim krovim zemizzel. How do we krovim? It should be shel dayanim. How do I know that this from the all based on advice? How do I know the witnesses should not be relatives to Dayanim? Hagatz muchad, because imagine that Shim Huzmu. What happens if they find the Eidim are Zomim? Lomi PM there, Rogin, who's going to kill these Eidim Zomim? Their own relatives, right? That doesn't work. Now it's interesting. The Bavli doesn't paskin this way. The Bavli paskins that the Eidim can be related to Dayanim. It's okay. Or rather, the Bavli doesn't say anything about this. So it depends. So there's some machlokes there, or some math speaks about some to some extent, actually a significant extent, that the Bavli holds that he says the Rambam paskins like the Bavli that the Bavli holds that Hazoma is not concerned because Hazoma is a peripheral issue. If there is Hazoma, they'll call other judges. It's not inherent in this court case. The Yerushalmi holds that the possibility that they're going to come up for Hazoma in front of their own relatives is a real possibility which changes the color and tenor of the court case. But according to the Yerushalmi, according to the Bavli, it's not so important. So in fact, that line, this line is, which says we can't have the Dayanim and Eidim related to each other, is not the position of the Bavli, not the position of the Rambam in his Psak. Okay? Now, how do we know, however, Sheminayin Shlo Eidim Krovim Zelo Zeh should be. How do we know the witnesses shouldn't be related to each other? Hagatzchov is imagined. Shim Huzam Echod Mehem. If one of them is found to be Neit Zoyim, Klum Nera Gachuzim Chavero, is he's not going to be killed until his friend becomes Luz as well. But Yimoim can't be going to say that Haloya Nera Gapiv, Loya Nera Gapiv, because he isn't being killed on the basis of his own brother, meaning he only kill both witnesses if they're both Zomim. Right? So each of us contingent on his brother's testimony. So in essence, the brothers are condemning the brothers. So again, according to Bavli, we're not to consider that when it's the Eidim and the Dayanim which are related to each other. But when it's the Eid and Eid which are related to each other, then we're concerned about that, right? Because then we assume at that point, if the brothers are related to each other, so then the Eidim are related to each other, so then you have this problem, which is that if they're trying to be Zomim, each one is put to death by the active involvement of the brother, right? But by Dayonim, it's not exactly the case. By Dayonim, we assume that they're going to retain their objectivity, and of course, since they're just ruling, not actually testifying, so therefore that's considered to be okay. All right? Says Uminayin, turn the page. Uminayin shlo yu aberin krom zeh, how you know the judges shouldn't be related to each other. Amar Torah said, and this is not the Rambam either. Amar Torah said, Haroga piyedim, it's his logic. Torah says kill based on witnesses, and kill based on judges, right? Oh, pidadani. Ma'edim ain't krovim zeh. Is that just like witnesses cannot be related to each other because of hazama problems, right? They might not be able to overturn properly. So the judges are not allowed to be related to each other. Okay? Says the Gemara, how we know that the alien loves money man, no other kids. The kids and the parents. How we know the other relatives? So I already mentioned on the base, but here the Gemara gets more explicit. When it says the extra vav, I'm sorry, I didn't say bonus. Uvani, l'rabu shar krovin includes other relatives. Akadu Krabi Kiva, that makes sense according to Kiva Dash's extra vavs. But Krabi Shmuel 9, how we know Krabi Shmuel, that loch is the same. Tiny Rabbi Shmuel said, a good question. I'll tell you the answer. V'shaftu Eida v'tilaid. It says the congregation should judge and the congregation should save, right? So, Shalo Yueda lo krove makav lo krove muke. Teach us that the congregation cannot be related to the smiter nor to the smitee. Why not? How do you know the witnesses cannot be related to the people, the person standing accused? Because you say just like the dayonim may not be related to the person being judged. So to the witnesses, we're linked to the judge. They can't be. They can't be related to have relationships with the people who are being judged. How do we know the Adim cannot be related to each other? The same thing we said in Amrav. Imagine, they found to be in Zonim. They'd be killed based on their own say so. Based on their brother's say so, and that is not a tolerable situation. Okay, now we're talking about shvuos, the shvuah of edus. The person is supposed to testify or knows testimony, doesn't testify, he takes an oath and it's false oath and he requires kapara, right? Okay, so how do we know that this we're talking specifically about shvuos edus over here? I should stress that shvuos edus is a case specifically where I make you take an oath that you don't know any testimony from me. And you took the oath and of course you were lying, right? So it says that which you're liable to bring a korban for having lied falsely is only when your lie was made by you when you're a kosher Jew. Because if your lie is made by when you're a treif Jew, or obviously when you're not keeping the mitzvahs, so then what won't apply to you? Because Shemite says im lo yagid. It says if the guy does not tell over the edus which he knows, nasavano he'll bear his sin. Eshemagid v'chavero mishalem mama. So that's the case where if we went to tell it over, your friend will have to pay, right? However, Yatzab's apostle, this excludes the case where the guy is apostle, the judge. Shafilu magid es chavero, shafilu magid, even if paskins. So ein chaver mishalim mammon, his friend is not going to pay money. So what? So I goofed. Okay, minor goof. I got it right. Yotza psul. This means that if a guy is puzzled, Reuben is going around looking for people to come testify in his court case. So he goes up to Shimon and says, Shimon, will you testify for me? He says, I don't know any testimony for you. You take an oath that you don't know any testimony for me? Shimon says, yeah, but I'm an apostle. Right? I can't testify according to him. I'm a gambler. So Reuben says, take a shiur. That was a false oath. So the Shimon now bring the carbon shvuah for a shvuah seidus. That's the Yerushalmi says no. Because it has to be dafka somebody who could have testified. Okay? If he could have testified, then it's not shvuah seidus, right? Because he's nishba, he couldn't testify. He taka couldn't testify. What difference does it make? He can't testify because he doesn't know testimony, or he can't testify because he's a gambler. Lamais is not going to be testifying, right? You're a apostle who Shimon is a gambler. Even it says it over. His friend won't pay. Also, now the girsa is a bit messed up. Bifnei Beistin. Now here really should be the girsa from about 5 lines down. Bifnei Beistin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. This excludes Shalo Bifnei Beistin, right? Because in Loyak, even as Savano, same idea, it's got to be a case where if this guy not testifying, then the change of the case, and he bears sin. So obviously it's a case where if you would have testified, for would have paid. That's only in court. Yotza chutzah based in, suppose chutzah based in, shafilu magid in chaverim mishalim moment. There, even if you would have said his testimony, there would not have been any payment rendered because it's not in court. So there, it's only the judge or the so far the shvuah seidus or the kosher witness who's standing in court. That guy brings the shvuah seidus if he lies on his shvuah. Okay, going back to where we were before, and now says the Gemara, quoting the Mishnah action shvuahs, it's beru'in lahoid. It's got to be somebody who's suitable to testify. As opposed to a solitary witness. Even it says solitary witness, we accept you like 2. Nevertheless, it's only 1 witness. Is Chayish will say this? No, because the pasuk says it should be say explicitly Vu aid he's a witness and he saw or he knew. Eshu kosher lo'aid, and that means somebody who's an aid. What does the aid mean in Torah? Whenever it says aid, singular Torah, what does it mean? Really? Whenever it says aid, singular Torah, what does it mean? 2.
Oh, that's right.
Come shekosra Torah aid echad areu kishnayim. Right? So since it says vu aid or means it's got to be part of a group of 2. So for shvuah seidus to apply to him, he's got to be part of a group of 2. Okay? So even if they say we accept you like 2, doesn't matter. The eshu kosher loid edus, it says here Torah, but it should be mammon. Eshu kosher loid to edus mammon. Yotzei echad shein kosher loid edus mammon, and echad is not suitable to testify. Skipping what we read before, 3 lines. How do we know that it means takatu edim? Because it says it should be v'hu eid, and take out the word echad. Because we said v'hu eid arei kachnai. Krabi Shmuel, there Shmuel Amar. Kol makom shekosem b'Torah eid stam. Anytime it says Torah eid without attribution, harei hu bichlal shnei edim. It's considered to be dafka 2 witnesses. It's considered to be dafka 2 witnesses. Until we find until Torah says explicitly that we're talking about 1 witness. We indeed found Rabbi Shmuel says Shnei Eidim, that it's only if there are 2 witnesses, then the shvuah say Eid. Now Rabbi said, was something I forgot. I wanted to tell you in Amar Aleph. And Amar Aleph wanted to tell you the following thing, that the Gemara learns that Eidim are that Kroivim can't testify from the pasuk of Lo Yimsu Oval Sabonim, right? It says Lo Yimsu.
think I wrote them. One second.
Okay, Rabbi Shmuel said on top of your chesed, Rabbi Shmuel said, "V'shaftu eda v'tzila eda shloya eda lo krove makav lo krove amuka." I didn't explain that sufficiently. I thought the Gemara would explain later on, but I made a mistake. It doesn't. It says that's Rabbi Shmuel knows that the edim should not be related because it says v'shaftu eda v'tzila eda. So what does that mean? V'shaftu eda v'tzila eda. So Rabbi Yossi had said. Right? Because if you say that Beis Din is going to be basically be related to the Nidonim, to the person, I mean to the murder victim, then their base is going to come out to be Golei Adam. It's going to be their responsibility if they're Krovim to kill the guy, right? As a Golei Adam, even if it's a shoygig, right? So therefore, it can't be, they won't be able to be matzulim, right? So he said, Shamasol Kremnosan, Jivalos, Agranosan, Amar Le, so he said, Shamati. Sorry, this was on pause for a while, missed some sugya. Tough, sorry on the tape. Says Maran Le Shamati. I heard the following. Mord Rabbi Shimon Korchel Rabbi Nosson. Not with the Pascha Rabbi Nosson, but Rabbi Shimon Korchel had said on Amar Aleph, that he can take two witnesses, afilu b'zeh achar even one after another. He holds like Rabbi Nosson. So he said, for that, that I need it. I know that Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Nosson know the same thing. I want to know who we paskin like. Fat line of good you did me. So it says your Amar Le, it should be Amrin. They said, Rabbi Yisrael knew that Rabbi Shimon Yaakov didn't know the answer. He only had in mind El Masker Shimon Yokim Le'el. He wanted to get Rabbi Shimon Yokim Smicha, begin Dava in Sharava because he knew he was a great man. So this is a ruse. Okay? Rav Chisda boy, Ma'al Kabel Im Shlovnei Ba'aldin. Can you, now this is very important, Aloch L'Maisa. Can I accept witnesses if the Ba'aldin is not here? One litigant is not here. The other litigant says, I need to go to court now. Can I accept witnesses even though the other litigant is not here? Rabbi said, yes, not only that, you make the psak. But if the defendant comes and he complains, then we listen to his complaint. But we make the psak without him. This is a case. A case of the person where they space and said them as subpoena 3 times. For low boy, it didn't come. In that case, Mekablim, the Eidus Shalobi Baldin, we accept testimony even without the Baldin, Vadli Xardin, and we make a Xardin. Kiadog, like the following case. Kana Domach, Rav Kana died. Vishava Kiyasu, he left inheritance to Rabbi Yosha, and inheritance for heirs, we had a Chutzaretz, he was a Babylonian. Okay? Because Rabbi Lezer side of Shloba Apoy, and Rabbi Lezer accept the testimony not in front of the witnesses, the litigants who were in Bavel, right? Zachi Rabbi Yosha, found Rabbi Yosha meritorious. Not only that, it was Shavak Sforim. This, by the way, is another part of this story. He left over Sforim. Because Rabbi Lezer, Liyasi Sforim Shazachas Bahan, so Rabbi Lezer wrote to the heirs in Bavel, Sforim Shazachas Bahan, the Sforim you acquired, Shazachas ben Eretz Yisrael, right? The Sfarim which Eretz Yisrael acquired, ain't motzimosam mechutzlaretz. Isn't that interesting? No Israeli would ever make, for a pretty person, be able to make money if we pass in this way. Says here, Sfarim which are printed in Eretz Yisrael, you can't take them to chutzlaretz. They must stay in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Nasi B'Shur Shem Rabbi said, I'm sure it's about Sefer Torah. Because I'm Amanas Motzi, if he wrote on the condition to export, then Motzi. Rabbi Chia Bar Boy Kum Rabbi Yossi asked for Yossi Malotzi, can we take him out? Amar Le, so he said, Luv de actually asked me Aloch Lamaisa. Amar Le, he said, no, I don't have Aloch Lamaisa, just want to know theoretically. So he didn't answer him. Uboish Rabbi Zera lo amar leufta. Rabbi Zera was upset. You should have lied. Had told us halacha l'maisa and get the psak out of him. Well, you know, by hook or by crook, you should have gotten the psak out of him. So lie. So tell him what's halacha l'maisa. But you made the ma'amar. He wanted to know what he said, and that's why he didn't find out. Rabbi Yirmiyah Avli didn't, just going to end next Mishnah. Rabbi Yirmiyah Avli didn't b'chab manash. Rabbi Yirmiyah had a case in a certain individual. The kamu sadoy shelo ba'apoid Rabbi Yirmiyah. And they accepted the witnesses not for Rabbi Yirmiyah. V'chivu Rabbi Yirmiyah. And they found Rabbi Yirmiyah liable. Rabbi Yosef Mitzvah was upset. After Mekab made him below Baal Din, you accept witnesses who out to Baal Din. Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Pinchas, Rabbi Chizkiah, and it should be Rabbi Chilkiah. The law only in Pirkei Yom, but they didn't go to the base of Medeshtet. They were I guess they didn't want to get involved in controversy. Doch Rabbi Huda Baal. Rabbi Huda went in anyway. He pushed his way in. And in Ashkech, Rabbi Yirmiyah Mitzvah. He found Rabbi Yirmiyah, he was upset. I guess that's when he wanted to go based on Rabbi Yirmiyah. If he got upset, obviously nobody wanted to get involved. But he got upset. I said, Rabbi Yirmiyah was complaining, was grumbling. After the call made him below Baal Din, they accept witnesses without my being around. I feel more in both, so here, even if I'm with them in the same city. So Malay said, fascinating thing, he said, yeah, Kain Chamas Daikin the Rabban. That's how I see the rabbis hold. Oh well, tough on you, Rabbi Yirmiyah. That's the way it is. Okay.